A blonde woman wondered who was near her as she awoke. She then remembered her brother, Eaton, who was her closest friend and family. He told Vivi he would marry Mina and that she needed to care for herself. Vivi found herself in a desert, asking a strange red-haired man who he was. The man forcefully pinned her to the ground, so she asked what he was doing. Another man told the red-haired man, Mentis, to be calm because she had no weapons. He explained Mentis was just doing his duty, but Vivi could not understand his language. Scared and confused, Vivi again asked the robed man who he was. She was shocked because she realized she could suddenly speak their strange language. The man, Radak, said she almost died of thirst and asked why she was alone. Vivi was stunned to see a desert with pyramids as she was just in London. Radak told her she was in Egypt, which confused her as she was just discussing it. She remembered telling someone the name of the pharaoh's most beloved queen was Nefertari. Radak commented that the Egyptian name suited her well, but she tried to correct him. He called her Miss Nefertari and said they needed her help with some trouble. She thanked them for saving her, but insisted she needed to go home. Radak promised to get her home tomorrow if she agreed to help them. She was hopeful and asked if he could really get her home. Mentis grew impatient and simply picked her up to take her with them by force. Radak insisted they must get Miss Nefertari's consent, so Mentis should not be rash. Mentis argued there was no time for explanations because he had much to do. He thought she was the most suitable girl because of her rare blonde hair and blue eyes. He was sure she would be perfect for their master's plan. Radak asked her to attend a banquet in exchange for her return home tomorrow. Mentis then put her on his horse, saying he doesn't let just anyone ride him. They rode off quickly, leaving her terrified and screaming for an explanation. Mentis told her they were in Thebes, making her realize she was in ancient Egypt. He was annoyed she didn't know Thebes was the capital of Egypt. She looked upon the magnificent lost city, confirming she was in ancient Egypt. She stood inside a grand hall, realizing she was thousands of years in the past. This new reality made her wonder if she could ever return home. Her thoughts were interrupted when someone yelled and asked what she was doing. Two maids were ordered to bathe and dress her for the banquet with His Royal Highness. Radak, now with white hair, wished Miss Nefertari a pleasant evening and left. The maids gushed over how handsome Lord Radak and General Mentis were. They gossiped that the prince was even more handsome, though rumored to have no skills. They were excited to see his face, so a confused Vivi asked what they were discussing. Vivi asked the maids if they were truly in Thebes, Egypt. The maids became annoyed and told her to stop pretending she didn't know where she was. They questioned how she convinced the lords to bring her to the palace. When she removed her hood, the maids were stunned by her golden hair and blue eyes. They immediately bowed and apologized, saying they now understood why she was brought there. One maid noted her exotic features and eagerly offered their services. They then promised to make her the most beautiful lady at the banquet that night. Meanwhile, at the banquet, Lord Pharaoh greeted General Tata. General Tata, accompanied by a beautiful woman, was looking quite pleased with himself. The men gossiped that the prince always throws a party when the pharaoh is away. They heard tonight's banquet would be the grandest one yet with many beautiful women. They felt the crown prince was irresponsible for only chasing pleasure as regent. As Mentis and Radak arrived, the men noted the prince leaves everything to them. Another man commented that the two of them were certainly not fools. Mentis became a great general at 22, known for his brilliant success in battle. Radak became the youngest prophet at 18 and was now a high priest with a limitless future. In comparison, they thought the prince was mediocre and not worth mentioning. They laughed, saying he only had favor due to his looks and his mother's status. His Royal Highness arrived, greeting the court as women lined up to welcome him. He asked for the ladies who were blessed by the goddess Happy. An official replied that they were ready, so the prince ordered them to be brought out. The prince declared that they could not be married without women. A command was then given to summon the women into the hall. The prince was excited because he had made sure there would be plenty of women tonight. As he welcomed the women, his eyes widened in surprise when he saw Vivi. Mentis wondered if it was the same girl, while General Tata was instantly smitten. General Tata claimed her for the night, saying he liked to collect unique things. He then lunged towards her, calling her a little lady. The prince stopped him, asking him what the rush was. Holding Vivi, the prince told the general to choose another woman as he had not chosen yet. General Tata was furious with the prince for intervening. The prince ordered Radak to give another girl to the general to avoid souring his mood. A girl next to Radak was upset because she wanted to stay with him instead. Although annoyed, the girl tried to appease the angry general by offering him wine. As Vivi tried to leave, the prince grabbed her wrist and asked where she was going. He told her he needed a woman to accompany him, but she protested that she doesn't drink. He clarified that he only asked her to accompany him, not to drink with him. The prince then surprised her by lifting her into his arms. He carried her to his seat and proposed a toast with her sitting on his lap. She noticed everyone was ignoring the prince and paying attention only to General Ta. She saw that Mentis and Radak were also watching Tada with serious expressions. It seemed that Mentis and Radak had arranged the banquet for a specific reason. She wondered what they were planning as she sat with the prince. The prince asked for her name, making her wonder about the chilling look he had earlier. She replied that in her country, one gives their name first before asking for another's. She clarified that she was indeed asking for the name his mother gave him. The prince paused to think about the name his mother gave him. He said it had been a long time, then told her to call him by Pharaoh. She found his beautiful amber eyes to be more intoxicating than wine. She shyly told him that her name was Nefertari. Pharaoh told her it was a nice name and then fed her a grape. He suggested she move to the seat next to him, which surprised her. She then blushed, realizing she had been sitting on his lap the entire time. Pharaoh held her hand and firmly told her to stay by his side. He then stood up to announce that he had a reason for gathering everyone. Nefertari noticed something happening that made her wonder what was going on. Suddenly, Mentis shouted for the guards to enter the banquet hall. Pharaoh accused General Tada of numerous crimes, including treason, punishable by death. He then accused the Right Chancellor, Dakri, of treason for selling weapons to the enemy. Priest Ta was also accused of organizing armed forces and was sentenced to death. General Kek was sentenced to death for abusing his power, and their accomplices were sold as slaves. One of the accused men angrily demanded how the prince dared to treat them this way. They argued that only the pharaoh could execute them as he had granted them their power. Pharaoh declared that, as crown prince, he had the legal power to execute the disloyal. Enraged, one of the accused men charged at the prince with a dagger. Nefertari jumped in front of Pharaoh, stopping the man's suffering from being prolonged. For this crime, Pharaoh ordered the man's entire family to be brutally punished and killed. Nefertari was horrified by the prince's cruelty as the man was taken away. She witnessed the cold massacre and realized how easily life could be taken by absolute power. After the executions, the prince calmly offered more wine to everyone. She was completely terrified, thinking that the prince was a deranged psycho. Overcome with fear, she decided she needed to get out of the palace immediately. As she ran, Radak appeared and asked her where she was going. She begged him to take her home, but he told her the prince was looking for her. She tearfully reminded him of his promise to send her home after the banquet. Desperate to leave, she shouted at him to move out of her way. The prince then appeared behind her and asked where her home was. He reached out his hand, saying it was boring to drink alone. Pharaoh held her from behind and asked if it was so bad to accompany him. Nefertari broke down in tears, screaming that everything was awful. She struggled, warning him that her brother Eaton would never forgive him. As she spoke, the prince silenced her with a kiss. She was completely shocked because it was her very first kiss. After the kiss, the prince coolly asked who Eaton was. He leaned in close and asked if Eaton was her protector. She could only think about the fact that he had stolen her first kiss. When he asked again, she blurted out that Eaton was her brother. Pharaoh explained that in Egypt, only royal siblings were permitted to marry. He added that he did not approve of this custom because it was detrimental. Since they weren't related, he was sure her family would not oppose their marriage. She then remembered her brother telling her he was going to marry someone else. This made her feel that she needed to find her own family and future. The prince then asked why she still wanted to go home if that was the case. He told her to stay by his side and be part of something greater. He informed her of a law stating that all who enter Egypt belong to the pharaoh. Because he was the pharaoh's son, he claimed that she belonged to him. He assured her he wouldn't harm her but ordered her to stay by his side. From then on, she was constantly bathed, dressed, and served by maids. Pharaoh's greatest pleasure was having Ivy by his side like a faithful pet. But in an era without modern entertainment, Ivy felt she had nothing to do. One day, Pharaoh asked if her distant homeland was farther away than Babylon. She told him it was on the other side of the globe, which confused him. Her clever answers seemed to make him unhappy, so she tried to cheer him up. He held her close and asked if it was truly so bad for her to stay there. Ivy ran away from him through the palace as her maids called after her. She felt she did not belong there and wanted nothing to do with the cruel prince. While wondering how to get home, she suddenly saw Radak talking with other men. She ran to Radak, surprising him by reminding him that a month had passed. She demanded to know when he would keep his promise to send her home. Radek realized she was still focused on his broken promise. He asked if she didn't like being with the prince, which made her angry. She angrily cut off his praise, calling him a worshipper of a tyrant. Radek then asked if she was waiting for the prince. He explained the prince was busy discussing the issue of idle farmers. Radek explained that idle farmers with no work could lead to rioting. He then chuckled, assuming she would not understand such complex matters. He told her the prince would be done soon, and then prepared to leave. Offended, Ivy revealed that this problem was the exact topic of her dissertation. She told him they should spend money to have the farmers work on infrastructure. Ivy explained that the root cause of rioting was food insecurity. She suggested using money meant for craftsmen and slaves to pay the farmers instead. This plan would also prevent slaves from dying from overwork. It would also keep the idle farmers from rioting out of hunger. She knew farmers relied on the Nile, and poor harvests would cause them to riot. If their labor was harnessed with proper wages, the problem would be solved. With stable livelihoods, people might not even mind a slight tax increase. As she spoke, she was interrupted by the arrival of the prince and his advisors. An old advisor, leaning on a cane, asked the young girl where she heard all this. Ivy timidly explained that this was just the surface of her research on the topic. She said people in her country could help them if they would just let her go back. The advisor grew suspicious and sternly asked where she came from. He noted she did not look like she was from any of the surrounding barbaric nations. The prince stepped in, telling his advisor Zyman that she was his guest. Zyman apologized for his rudeness, and the advisors took their leave. Baifidu then told her that what she had described was already Egypt's national policy. His father had struggled with the problem for years, trying different unsuccessful solutions. The current system she described was only implemented a month ago. He was impressed because even a veteran minister took many days to devise that plan. He asked how she understood it so well, so she replied using a famous metaphor. When he asked about giants, she explained many people from her home understand these things. Baifidu told Nefertari he had thought she was merely beautiful, but her wisdom regarding his kingdom had clearly impressed him. Now that he had seen her wisdom, he wondered how he could possibly let her go. She became nervous and asked him what he was going to do. He simply smiled and asked her what she was so afraid of. Assumed she would be excited for the upcoming Nile festival. He explained it was a celebration for the Nile goddess who blesses the land. On the day of the festival, he would take her as his first concubine. She was shocked, but he said a concubine would do since he didn't want a wife yet. He praised her unique beauty and intellect, which were beloved by Egyptians. He kissed her forehead, declaring she would be the most beautiful princess in their history. She pushed him away, screaming that she didn't want it and didn't belong there. She insisted that she just wanted to leave and go home. Baifidu asked if she wanted to return to that person, Eaton. She confirmed with a passionate yes that she wanted to go back home. He remarked that this Eaton must be amazing and that he would like to meet him. Baifidu then looked at her seriously and told her to remember something. He stated that as the pharaoh's son, everything in Egypt, including her, would belong to him. He repeated his declaration that she would become his concubine after the festival. He told her to look forward to it and then walked away from her. A prayer was being offered to the Nile for a golden age in Egypt. At the royal palace at night, Ivy asked if the festival was tomorrow. Radek smiled and confirmed that the Nile was finally starting to rise. He was excited for the magnificent celebration that would last for several days. Ivy suddenly asked who the current pharaoh was, causing Radek to trip in surprise. He looked back at her, wondering what kind of country bumpkin she was. He told her the pharaoh's name was Seti, which made her think of Seti I. He asked if she knew about buoyancy, and she nervously claimed she did. She realized they already had advanced knowledge of transport for large-scale construction. Knowing the pharaoh was Seti I, she regretted not memorizing more history. She racked her brain, wondering what other modern knowledge she could possibly use. Radek noticed her distress and asked if she had forgotten something. He pointed out that normal girls would not be worried about transporting stones. He said she should be nervous about the prince announcing her as his concubine. She believed the pharaoh wouldn't agree to the match because Baifidu was the prince regent. She reasoned that marriage has always been a tool to consolidate power. As the future pharaoh, his life would be shaped by his duties to the country. He would need political marriages, so she believed he couldn't marry her on a whim. Advisors were protesting to the prince that the first princess could not be chosen so casually. They argued the concubine could become the royal wife, but they knew nothing about Nefertari. An old advisor pleaded that a girl of unknown origin would only bring him disgrace. Baifidu angrily asserted his divine right and ordered them to leave. Ximen urged him to think about the country, even if he wouldn't think for himself. He listed the many military threats Egypt was currently facing from all sides. He insisted the prince must marry a princess for a political alliance, as the pharaoh wished. Baifidu knew his father would oppose the match and might even kill her, but he felt that if he didn't marry her soon, she would disappear forever. After a moment, he told the advisors that he had listened to their counsel. He then declared that Nefertari will be his concubine, and there would be no more discussion. However, he would reconsider the timing and manner of the marriage. The advisors were shocked that he still insisted, wondering who this Nefertari was. Ivy had tried to escape the palace many times but was always caught. She was frustrated by the prince's laughing insistence that she would be his concubine. She lamented ever meeting him and wondered if her borrowed name would remain in history. She stood on a balcony overlooking the water, contemplating her next move. Baifidu rushed to her side, demanding to know what she was doing. He warned her the flooding Nile was dangerous and that she was his responsibility. He told her not to be shy as he held her, but she insisted she hadn't agreed. He then told her he had visited the quarry and confirmed what she said was true. Many farmers were willing to work, so his father's pyramid could be finished early. She realized he'd been at the quarry and became curious about pyramid construction. He startled her from her thoughts, remarking that she was lost in thought again. Looking at her intensely, he asked her once more who she really was. He recalled how she was brave, compassionate, and knowledgeable from the moment they met. The loneliness in her eyes when she spoke of home made him jealous for her attention. His jealousy turned into a desire to be the one in her heart and by her side. He decided he would arrange their wedding immediately after the ceremony, ignoring all objections. He admitted he wasn't powerful enough yet, but one day he would be pharaoh. He promised to pamper her then, giving her the very bracelet that brought her there. He asked if she liked it, revealing he had it specially made for her. The cobra bracelet was a symbol of supremacy, showing that she belonged to him. He sensed her hesitation and asked if she was refusing his gift. She realized that wearing the bracelet again might send her home, so she snatched it. She held the bracelet, wondering if it was her way to finally escape. She believed the bracelet was the key to time and space, her ticket home. A ceremony began with a priest praising the generous gift given to all of Egypt. The gift was praised as being more precious than silver or gold. The pharaoh declared this gift to be a great fortune for all of Egypt. He announced the appearance of Sirius, a sign the Nile goddess would bless the land. The people cheered for the Nile and asked the pharaoh to relay their veneration. From a doorway, Ivy watched the people praying for the grace of the Nile. She looked out over the massive crowd, awed by ancient Egypt's greatest festival. The magnificent scene, with a giant sphinx statue, was more stunning than any book. As she marveled at the sight, the prince found her and asked what she was doing. He invited her to join him, but she nervously declined the offer. Her refusal made him angry, and he sternly told her not to defy him. He wanted her to witness the wonders of his kingdom firsthand. He then challenged her to compare the prestige of her nation to that of his Egypt. As he appeared before the crowd, they erupted in massive cheers for the crown prince. The thunderous cheers made Ivy realize that Baifidu was truly adored by his people. The pharaoh called out to his son, telling him to come to his side. The prince greeted his father, noting his triumphant return was an auspicious sign. The pharaoh told his son that one day, the great land would be his to rule. The people cheered for their land, as the pharaoh entrusted its protection to his son. The pharaoh then decided it was a blessed day to discuss his son's marriage. He mentioned that he had heard about the foreign girl his son wanted as a concubine. The pharaoh was not against it, as a prince his age should have concubines. But he insisted the prince must first marry nobles and princesses to secure his prestige. The pharaoh then declared that he would find princesses for his son that very day. Ivy overheard the news and realized with a shock that the prince was getting married. She tried to convince herself this was for the best, as he would become pharaoh. With him occupied, she felt this was her chance to use the bracelet and go back. She held the bracelet, thinking her departure would work out for the best for everyone. But then she remembered his heartfelt promise to love and pamper her one day. Conflicted, she asked a servant where the banquet hall was. She wondered what kind of woman he would choose and why she cared so much. Arriving at the feast, she was amazed by the sight of the ancient celebration. She realized it was not just a celebration of the Nile's flooding. It was also a ceremony for the pharaoh to receive envoys from other countries. The pharaoh offered his son any gift he desired from the envoy's tributes. He praised his son for his excellent work as regent and wanted to reward him. The prince humbly replied that aiding his father was reward enough. The pharaoh laughed and insisted on giving him other gifts instead of riches. His gifts were the foreign princesses and noble ladies attending the feast. The first to be introduced was Princess Lenita of Libya. Princess Lenita gracefully greeted His Majesty as she walked forward. However, she clumsily tripped as her servants rushed to help her. The pharaoh welcomed her to Egypt, but the prince remained silent. The pharaoh gave Lenita to another man to replace his deceased second concubine. The man was ordered to wed her the next day, and he obediently agreed. The pharaoh then appointed him as the new consul general of Giza. The court gossiped that the eldest prince was being sent away to the frontier. A woman with a veil insisted the second prince should not be underestimated. Seti was sending his son to the western frontier for political reasons. The court summoned Camerota, the daughter of Ximen. Onlookers admired Camerota's stunning beauty, thinking she must be for the crown prince. A man praised Ximen for being a faithful minister. Pharaoh Seti reminded him that Ximen's second daughter was also his adored wife. He then announced Camerota would wed the fourth prince as a reward for loyalty. A man thanked the pharaoh, so the veiled woman realized she was not marrying by Fidu. She felt disturbed that one sister married the pharaoh while another married his son. A young royal believed that marriage was a political tool for Egypt's influence. The veiled woman accepted that for an Egyptian pharaoh, all of this was normal. He wondered if his gentle and captivating eyes would one day be for others. The pharaoh asked his son what was wrong, but the prince said it was nothing. The prince then asked to retire, saying he felt worn out. His father understood his boredom and promised a gift that would satisfy him. He then ordered his guards to summon Mot-Horneferir. A guard loudly repeated the summons for Mot-Horneferir. Both the prince and the pharaoh watched as the summons was repeated. Guards harshly ordered the prisoners to enter the hall. The pharaoh then formally welcomed Princess Mot-Horneferir to Egypt. The princess defiantly told him to kill her. She then questioned how he knew that she wouldn't kill him instead. She smashed a doll, equating its destruction with killing him. This was a power struggle where winning meant kingship and losing meant becoming an outcast. A character thought by Pharaoh was callous because he had a cruel and ruthless father. The pharaoh turned to his son and presented the princess as his gift. She was identified as the 17th princess of the Hittite Empire. Both the prince and the veiled woman looked on as her name was announced. An announcer declared she was the 17th princess of the Hittite Empire. The princess listened as her full name was called out. The prince was stunned, questioning why the Hittite king's favorite daughter was there. The pharaoh simply called her an obstinate girl. He explained she was captured after fleeing an arranged marriage into their territory. The prince asked his father not to award her to him. He suggested using her as a bargaining chip to gain cities from the Hittites. The pharaoh dismissed this, saying a couple of small cities meant nothing to him. He also noted the Hittites could just retake the cities later. He grandly declared his plan to conquer the entire Hittite Empire soon. Once that was done, he said, princesses and cities would be meaningless. Some envoys thought the pharaoh was an undiplomatic egomaniac. The prince noticed his father's speech was making the neutral envoys waver. He believed they should be winning allies against the Hittites at this moment. Internally, he called his father a stupid king for his threatening display. The princess boldly told the pharaoh his arrogance would lead to his ruin. An observer thought the princess was a foolish girl with a death wish. The prince hoped she would be exiled, but the pharaoh decided not to execute her yet. Instead, he would make her his son's concubine without a ceremony to shame the Hittites. People gossiped about the beautiful princess becoming a concubine of her own volition. The princess despaired, realizing she could never return to her homeland. She felt immense shame, believing she had dishonored her entire empire. The pharaoh then prompted his son to have his new concubine taken away. The veiled woman wondered why Baifidu was hesitating to act. She knew this would humiliate the Hittites, especially if she bore a son. The pharaoh impatiently asked Baifidu what he was waiting for. The veiled woman mused that her trip to ancient Egypt had been rewarding. She had witnessed things she never dreamed of and couldn't wait to tell her brother Eton. She held the key to return home, thinking she ought to be happy about it. Baifidu finally addressed the Hittite princess by her full name and title. He then declared that from that moment on, she was his concubine. He warned her that disrespecting Egypt would result in a fate worse than death. The veiled woman concluded that for ancient monarchs, marriage was just a tool for power. The crowd cheered for Egypt and celebrated the humiliation of the Hittites. The pharaoh ordered the other prisoners to be executed the next day. The woman's snake bracelet did not activate, so she feared she was stuck. Suddenly, another woman bumped into her, rudely telling her to watch her step. The prince recognized her as Nefertari and asked why she was disguised. She explained it was to see the festivities without causing a commotion. He then asked her if she had seen everything that just happened. She replied that she had seen the beautiful Hittite princess. He nervously asked if she wasn't upset about him getting a new concubine. She wondered why she would be upset, then guessed he didn't want the marriage. He insisted marrying her was the right thing to do for Egypt's benefit. He angrily grabbed her, asking if she didn't care for him one bit. Confused, she said they were never meant to meet in the first place. He shouted that he could give her anything and asked why she always tried to leave. He saw her as a beautiful golden bird, but she insisted she didn't belong there. He feared she would fly away, yet believed all land under the sun would be his. He offered to banish the Hittite princess if Nefertari didn't like her. He then demanded she become his concubine, threatening to break her wings to keep her. He vowed to give her everything, but she questioned if that was what she truly wanted. She realized with sorrow she would never be his first or only concubine. She believed this path would eventually break his heart. For him, marriage was just a tool, and more women would follow this one. He gently called her name and asked if he had hurt her. She wondered why she was worrying about these things. She felt she should be more concerned with why she was in this time and place. She should have been thinking about whether she could ever return home. Suddenly, her bracelet glowed brightly, and the prince cried out her name in alarm. He reached out desperately, begging her not to disappear from his sight. A handsome man with dark hair welcomed her back. A flashback showed a young girl asking her mother why she was apologizing to rude people. Her mother simply told her not to pay them any mind. She taught her daughter to always maintain her composure and grace. The girl recalled her mother was always proper and could face anything with a smile. She thought her beautiful mother, who taught her about forgiveness, would always be there. But one day, the young girl begged her mother not to fall asleep. Her mother told Vivi that she had to be strong on her own. On a winter day when she was 16, her mother passed away. After that, she felt completely alone in the world. A young man then introduced himself as her half-brother, Eaton. It was that same year that she discovered her true lineage. He promised to take care of her as family until she found her path. He promised they could have a home and be a family together. Eaton was a mix of Western and Eastern blood and lived a charmed life. However, his superb business acumen truly secured his high standing in society. With a keen eye for investment, he quickly cemented his place in the business world. For him, every choice, including marriage, had to benefit the business. He utilized all his resources effectively, and a life partner was no different. She felt he treated her differently, as a sister he truly cared for. A voice called for Vivi to wake up. She opened her eyes and saw her brother Eaton and her father. She was relieved to be back, but Eaton told her she was still weak and should rest. She had never seen the sharp, business-minded Eaton look so pale and worn. Her father then asked where she had been for the past week. She was completely shocked to hear that a whole week had passed. She couldn't believe she had been missing for a week. He confirmed they searched all of England, and Eaton had found her in the courtyard. Looking at her bracelet, she wondered if it really let her travel through time. When asked again, she claimed that she didn't remember anything. She insisted that she had no memory of the past week at all. She decided to hide the truth about the bracelet, so her father hugged her tightly. He angrily declared she would have 3 bodyguards whenever she left the house. He vowed to destroy anyone who dared to take his Vivi away again. A butler interrupted to announce his meeting with the queen. Her father had to leave but told Eaton to take care of her. Left alone with Eaton, she felt awkward and unsure of what to say. Eaton then seriously asked her where she had been all week. Once again, she tearfully claimed she did not remember. Eaton revealed he saw her disappear in a strange light but didn't tell their father. He said he believed she remembered but was afraid no one would believe her. He reassured her that she did not need to hide anything from him. Despite his kindness, she insisted that she truly forgot what happened. So he decided to ask her a different question. He directly asked her, "Who is Pharaoh?" He explained that she had called out that name while she was unconscious. She was stunned to learn she had called out his name. Eaton pressed further, asking what kind of name it was and where the man was from. He began to wonder if Ivy had been with this man while she was missing. If that was the case, he was deeply concerned about her safety. Sensing his change in mood, she nervously asked if he was angry with her. He confessed that as her brother, he was worried, scared, and felt helpless. He felt they needed to protect her from strangers with unknown motives. She saw his concern, but pointed out that he would soon be married to Mina. Eaton got upset and told her not to change the subject. She yelled that she should also be allowed to fall in love and not be alone. She then accused him of being selfish. He tried to calm her down, but she suddenly went silent. He looked at her with a pained expression and told her to rest well. Eaton reflected on how he once thought he was all alone in the world. He had struggled and fought for his place in a very hostile environment. The more he achieved, the more distant everyone around him became. Then, completely out of the blue, he discovered he had a sister. He remembered the first time he saw her, thinking she looked just like an angel. He was surprised by how easily they were able to understand one another. She intrinsically understood the struggles of being part of their family. They were friends connected by blood, a bond strengthened by their shared kinship. He punched a wall, wondering if his marriage would change their relationship. He realized that he would have a new family, leaving Ivy all alone again. Meanwhile, Ivy often wondered what kind of Pharaoh Pharaoh would have become. She recalled him being arrogant, domineering, and a skilled warrior. She couldn't find his name in any history books, so she questioned if he became Pharaoh. She considered that he might have been a mediocre pharaoh, leaving no records. During her presentation, she explained Egypt's economy was built on absolute sovereign power. She cited Ramesses Roman II, who built monuments and gathered knowledge from far and wide. A professor asked if she thought Egypt's economy was different from a feudal system. Another panel member argued it was a typical slave economy. A professor then asked to confirm that she was only 18 years old. She knew that passing this defense would get her into Cambridge. While her father was worried, she still lacked the courage to tell him the truth. She just hoped for a fresh start, but a professor had one more question for her. He asked for her perspective on the period under Ramesses Roman II. She panicked about her history knowledge, but he assured her it was a tangential question. Since they were economists, she felt safe as long as she wasn't too outrageous. She began by mentioning Egypt's impeccable military strength during his reign. Then, she spoke about the free flow of both ideas and goods. This allowed them to obtain tributes and advanced technology from prisoners. They also used large-scale construction and religion to control the people. She nervously concluded her points by mentioning political marriages. She stated he had over 200 wives from powerful nations during his 90-year life. This helped him solidify his rule, but a professor suddenly interrupted her. He started by saying they had a high opinion of her written paper. However, they had doubts about her history, questioning her scholarly attitude. She insisted her research was well documented, and she wasn't spouting nonsense. The professor calmly stated that Ramesses Roman II died less than 2 years into his reign. He then added that the pharaoh had only 3 wives. These wives were a Hittite princess, his younger sister, and one other. The third was a beloved foreign princess named Nefertari, who also died early. Because he left no heirs, his sister's son succeeded him. Overwhelmed, she abruptly ran out of the examination room. In the library, she refused to believe that was what happened to Ramesses Roman II. She pulled out a history book, remembering his reign lasted over 60 years. He was supposed to have had 60 offspring and countless wives. He was meant to be the greatest pharaoh of the 19th dynasty. She frantically searched for answers, wondering if her experience had been a dream. A book confirmed Ramesses Roman II was Seti's second son, but was named Crown Prince. The text described him as the future heir of Egypt. From a young age, he was entrusted with many important responsibilities. Seti also appointed him to manage the Aswan quarry to prepare him for rule. His achievements might have surpassed his father's, if not for his early death. Murals and documents consistently showed he had only 3 wives. The first was the Hittite princess chosen for him by his father, Seti I. The others were his unnamed younger sister and his most beloved, Princess Nefertari. He built a temple where her statue always stood beside his. However, historical documents indicated that Nefertari had a very brief life. She finally put it together. Pharaoh was Ramesses Roman II. She panicked, realizing she had interfered with time and changed history. She questioned why he died so young and where the real Nefertari was. Looking at his image, she desperately wondered what had happened to him. Eaton found her in the library and asked what she was doing there. She broke down, telling him she had made a huge mistake and changed things. He comforted her, promising to help and protect her from any blame. He felt a strange sense of familiarity, as if he'd promised to protect her long ago. He asked her why she was crying, but she thought he wouldn't believe her. He looked at her gently and just told her to try me. He suggested they continue their conversation in the car to get out of the cold. Once inside, he asked her again what was wrong. She nervously began to pose a hypothetical question to him. She reminded him of his promise to protect her no matter what. She then asked how he would protect her if she traveled thousands of years into the past. She wondered if he would appear if she called his name while in danger. She also asked if he would come for her if she were lonely and wanted to go home. She lost her nerve and quickly told him to forget she said anything. He leaned in and promised to protect her anywhere as her big brother. He assured her that he was never going to abandon her. Later, she went to a beauty salon called Miss Laura's. The stylist asked Miss Maudiet what she thought of her new hairstyle. She then recommended a spray to help her maintain the new look. Ivy looked in the mirror, pleased that the short blue wig looked very natural. She decided to purchase 3 months' worth of the styling spray. The staff bowed and thanked her as she left the salon. She felt confident that now she would not stand out so much. She then gathered supplies, including a tactical flashlight for self-defense. She also packed a special spray that could cause fainting. Her gear included night vision binoculars and several flares. She added a .38 special revolver, believing it would be enough for self-defense. She couldn't rest until she went back to save that ruffian prince. She felt responsible for shortening his life by 70 years, so she had to go back. Her plan was to find the real Nefertari and bring the two of them together. She was determined to set history back on its proper course before disappearing again. In the desert, a red-haired boy rewarded his eagle, Rue, with a snack. His eagle suddenly flew up as a bright flash of light struck the desert sand. He saw a person on the ground and wondered if they were a foreigner. He was startled when he saw the person's brilliant blue eyes. Ivy, now dressed as a boy, asked what he was doing to her. As he walked away, she wondered if he might be an Egyptian. She ran up to him and asked if Pharaoh was still a prince or already the pharaoh. The boy looked confused and asked who Pharaoh was. She quickly corrected herself and said she meant Ramesses. She anxiously asked if he had ascended the throne or if he was already dead. He grabbed her, angry that she didn't know the pharaoh was crowned 3 days ago. She was filled with relief, realizing she had made it back in time. The boy introduced himself as Buku, the son of the Sidet village chief. She nervously introduced herself as Ivy, which he found to be a strange name. She said she was from England and asked how far they were from Thebes. She explained that she had to get to Thebes to save Ramesses Roman II. He yanked his arm away from her grasp, calling her almost like a woman. He explained they were on the border of Egypt and Libya, a long way from Thebes. However, he told her she was in luck if she wanted to see the pharaoh. The pharaoh was currently at his palace in Memphis, which was a 10-day ride from there. She worried about the journey, and he doubted she could even get an audience with him. He decided to let her tag along since he was going to Memphis to see his brother. Giza was a border city that formed a relatively autonomous territory. Its lord was the first prince, Shu, who should have inherited the throne. But their father Seti had instead made his second son, Ramesses, the crown prince. So the second prince, Ramesses, ascended the throne due to his governing talent. Ivy then asked Buka if the pharaoh had a wife named Neferir. He was surprised that a so-called bumpkin like her would know that name. He confirmed the pharaoh had 2 wives, Princess Neferir and Princess Amun-Ra. Rumors said he had a reputation for philandering and married them for political reasons. He explained to her that philandering meant having many lovers. People also said he never showed any special favor to his 2 wives. He then mentioned Nefertari as a possible exception, but she died long ago. When Ivy asked how long ago, he guessed it was 4 or 5 years. The news that it had been 4 or 5 years left her stunned. Suddenly, Buku's eagle alerted him to something and he ran toward it. He spotted a man covered in blood with an arrow sticking out of his back. They both rushed over, thinking the man had been assaulted and robbed. Buku asked if he was okay, and the dying man tried to speak. He managed to say something about Libyans and Moulay village 3 days ago. With his last breath, he pleaded for them to save Moulay village. Buku frantically asked what happened, but the man had already died. Ivy concluded he meant Libyans had pillaged the village 3 days ago. Buku was furious because the Libyans had broken their peace treaty. He insisted they had to get to Giza to inform Prince Shu. But Ivy stopped him, feeling that something was not right. Buku yelled at her to hurry, saying they needed to get help from Giza. She firmly told him they couldn't go, which left him confused. She began questioning him, asking how far away Moulay was from their current spot. He said it was a day and a half away, so she asked how far it was from Giza. He answered it was only a whole day away, confirming it was very close. Ivy deduced that if Giza was so close, they would already know about the attack. The lack of troops meant Giza had either fallen or another possibility. Buku finished her thought, realizing Giza might have colluded with Libya. Ivy said that either way, there was nothing they could do there. Buku panicked, feeling helpless as the son of Sidat's chief. Ivy calmly reminded him that he still had his eagle, Ru. She suggested he send Ru to his brother in Memphis for help. His brother could then inform the pharaoh and ask for military aid. However, she firmly stated that the pharaoh himself must not come. She feared a larger plot, so the pharaoh had to stay in Thebes. Buku then impatiently yelled at her to write the message down. A red-haired character told someone to hold on because he had no papyrus. He then gave the purple-haired person a notebook, telling him to write what he said. He urged him to stop looking at it and just write. He then worriedly asked Ivy what they should do. Ivy was confused but felt she must protect Pharaoh's life, so she decided they would go to Mule village. A man named Mentis greeted his falcon, Ru, who had returned quickly. He wondered where Buka was, as Buka was always near Ru. Mentis then found a piece of paper tied to the falcon's leg. He recognized the message as being in Buka's handwriting. After reading it, he urgently demanded his cloak and an audience with the pharaoh. The scene then changed to the pharaoh's bedroom in Memphis at night. Inside, a hand caressed another, belonging to his majesty. Mentis impatiently asked a guard how much longer he had to wait. Feeling the situation was urgent, he considered just barging in. He was flustered and wished the pharaoh would just get it over with. A woman exited, asking to be summoned again as it was her honor to serve. She said she was looking forward to it, but the pharaoh coldly told her to take her money and go. He warned her not to talk out of turn again. If she did, he would kill her, confirming the rumors she'd heard were true. None of the girls who received favor were made concubines. They would mysteriously die. The woman lamented because she thought her looks would earn her different treatment. She was left alone in the room, disappointed. Mentis then burst in, kneeling to report an urgent military matter to his majesty. The pharaoh asked if the Libyans had invaded, which Mentis confirmed. Mentis then asked why Giza hadn't sent troops, wondering how his majesty knew. He realized that even the fastest messenger couldn't beat Ru's speed. Pharaoh mused that his dear brother Shu couldn't withstand her seduction. Mentis then understood that Buka was right and Giza had defected. The pharaoh asked if enemy troops had already approached Memphis. Mentis, mesmerized by the pharaoh's beauty, quickly knelt to give his report. He explained his brother, Buka, sent a message that Giza had allied with the Libyans. The pharaoh simply commanded him to speak. Mentis relayed Buka's message that the pharaoh must not lead the forces there. The pharaoh asked if this message was written by Mentis's brother. Mentis swore that it was his brother's handwriting. He fell silent when the pharaoh noted that the paper should be with him. The pharaoh demanded the paper, as Mentis worried about his brother's rude words. Mentis begged the pharaoh to forgive his idiot brother for any offense. The pharaoh read the bold message aloud, so Mentis pleaded for forgiveness again. However, the pharaoh found his brother resourceful and potentially useful. Mentis quickly swore that his Sidat village had been the most loyal subjects for generations. The pharaoh was satisfied, saying that was good. He promised to summon Buka after the matter ended, so Mentis thanked him. Mentis then asked to lead troops to Mule because the situation was critical. But the pharaoh mused that such a resourceful man could hold off the enemy alone. He ordered a shocked Mentis to stay in Memphis. The pharaoh revealed he would confidentially lead a small force to Mule himself. Mentis protested, exclaiming that it was clearly a trap. The pharaoh ignored him, leaving Memphis in his hands. He predicted that there would soon be unrest in Memphis. He suspected there were traitors among them, or that the Hittites might invade. So he told Mentis to prepare, leaving him with the strongest troops. He also warned Mentis to be cautious with food due to a poison possibility. Mentis asked if his majesty was not afraid to leave Memphis to him. He asked if the pharaoh wasn't afraid he'd betray him during the chaos. The pharaoh just told him to make sure no one knew about his departure. Mentis was touched, wondering why his majesty trusted him so much. He told his majesty to rest assured. He vowed to protect Memphis and wait for his return. Giza was located near the border of Egypt and Libya. Merchants from far and near made the Giza region the richest in Egypt. In contrast, the Libyans along the border suffered from poverty and hunger. Therefore, the Libyans had long eyed this land with envy. A red-haired boy angrily noted Libya had broken a treaty with His Majesty, Seti. A purple-haired boy, ignoring him, simply continued to drink water. He remarked that it was the most delicious water he had ever tasted. The red-haired boy angrily asked if he was even listening to him. The purple-haired boy said that a treaty was just paper if the Libyans succeeded. The red-haired boy retorted that Pharaoh Ramesses was by no means inferior to the former pharaoh. The purple-haired boy observed that chaos always rises when there is a change in rule. He reminded Buka that if the new pharaoh sent large numbers of troops, Memphis would be vulnerable. Bucher realized a spy in the palace could have informed the Libyans. He then panicked that the pharaoh was in danger, and they had to hurry to Memphis. Ivy said all they could do now was pray that he saw their note. They decided to go see if there was anything they could do for Muley. The narrative stated that they were about to witness true cruelty. Ivy was horrified by the devastation, as no patch of land was left untouched. Bucher ran to the injured Chief Gimauta, asking how this could have happened. Bucher reassured the chief that he had let his brother know and troops would be there soon, but the chief told Bucher to leave him there because he did not have long. He gave Bucher a token and pleaded for him to protect the villagers and flee. Then, Chief Gimauta's hand went limp and he died. A grief-stricken Bucher embraced the chief's body and vowed to kill every last one of them. Ivy watched the brutal scene, wondering why she had to witness it. She questioned if this was God's punishment for her for altering history. Crying, she wondered why God wouldn't punish her alone. Bucher got up, determined to take the token and protect the villagers. Ivy declared that they couldn't let the chief down and must do everything to keep people safe. Bucher remembered his brother saying the pharaoh was a miraculous man who inspired people to die for him. He thought that if Ivy were his master, he would also give him his all. Ivy's blue eyes, brimming with wisdom, seemed to promise everlasting hope. The scene shifted to the Libyan camp. A man told General Pangu that the pharaoh had ordered a massive army to their location. The general laughed, thinking that was great. He celebrated because Memphis would be unguarded, and this decoy plan would work perfectly. His informant confirmed the intelligence, having heard it from a man with the chief's token. The general was confident the title of Libya's top general would soon be his. The villagers were told that the pharaoh was coming to save them. Bucher asked Ivy if this was a good idea, so she explained they must deceive themselves first. Ivy stated that everyone now believed the pharaoh was sending troops while staying behind. Bucher asked why, but Ivy just said she was out of water and asked for more. Bucher got angry and called her a water guzzler. He demanded that she tell him the reason first. Ivy snatched the water bottle, explaining it was so the villagers could evacuate safely. Bucher wondered if scaring the Libyans would really allow for a safe evacuation. A soldier ran to his general, reporting that the Muley villagers were moving toward Memphis. The general asked when this started, and the soldier replied it was about 12 hours ago. The general reasoned that their confidence must mean the pharaoh's army was already there. Not wanting to be fooled, General Pangu decided they were going back to Libya. He figured the decoy mission was complete, but a messenger arrived with news from Memphis. The general eagerly asked if the diversion had succeeded. The messenger reported that the pharaoh never sent troops, and his men were still in Memphis. The general became furious that the villagers had dared to trick him. He vowed he was going to pummel them into mincemeat. Bucher worriedly asked Ivy if any troops were coming to their aid. Ivy calculated that if reinforcements had left, they should be here by now, so it made sense for the villagers to retreat without arousing suspicion. However, she considered the possibility that the pharaoh never sent troops to their aid. She turned to Bucher and asked him if she could put her faith in him. Bucher thought that this thin and small boy in front of him sometimes seemed like a girl. He wanted to protect this frail person and have him depend on him. He thought that if Ivy were a woman, he would be willing to protect her for life. Ivy told Bucher not to worry. Bucher promised that even if it gets dangerous, he would protect her. Ivy thanked Baku, thinking she would remember having a friend like him 3,000 years ago. Suddenly, the Libyans charged, and Ivy feared they had received news from Memphis. Ivy shouted for everyone not to panic, insisting that reinforcements were coming, but she knew that humans on two legs could not outrun horses. She felt they had lost, having gambled on their luck. She realized she not only failed to fix things but had also caused more lives to be lost. She covered her mouth in shock, understanding she had made an even bigger mistake. But then someone shouted that it was His Majesty. His Majesty's army had arrived, their golden banner flying. Pharaoh Rameses appeared at the head of his powerful army. Ivy tried to recall what Baifidu was like in her memory. The young Baifidu she remembered had always been impulsive and frivolous. But the person in front of her now was familiar yet also unfamiliar. The arrogance and frivolity of youth were replaced with a resolute, regal air. She wondered if this was the real Baifidu all along. This was the greatest pharaoh of ancient Egypt, Rameses Roman II. His war formations were self-assured and composed. His soldiers were unflinching in close combat. Bucher excitedly told Ivy that Pharaoh Rameses was a brilliant commander, just as he said. In only an instant, he had secured victory. Ivy wondered if this was the true strength of ancient Egypt. Two soldiers approached, telling her the pharaoh wanted to see her. Ivy panicked and asked them to wait just a minute. She quickly ducked away to use some tanning spray. Looking in a mirror, she realized in horror that she had used too much. She worried that even Eaton or her father wouldn't recognize her now. She returned to Buka, who asked if she was nervous and had to relieve herself. Buka asked if her skin was darker, but she insisted she was like this already. The soldiers announced to His Majesty that they had brought him. The pharaoh's voice asked if that was by Pharaoh. Buka angrily asked Ivy what she was doing standing up. He pushed her down, telling her to prostrate herself and not speak unless spoken to. The pharaoh asked if the boy was the one who organized the evacuation of Mule. Buka urged Ivy to answer the pharaoh's cold and indifferent voice. Ivy confirmed that she organized it, Your Majesty. The pharaoh lifted her chin, remarking on her blue eyes. He commented that they were quite special. Ivy looked up at him, wondering who he was. He had the same eyes, nose, and mouth as Pharaoh, but his features were dripping with cold indifference, unlike the passionate prince she remembered. She didn't recognize him as he asked for the boy's name. He noted the name was not Egyptian and asked if he was not Mentis' brother. Baku interjected that he was Mentis' brother. Ivy then recalled that the red-haired Mentis always followed Pharaoh. Along with Radak, she realized that Baku was his brother. The pharaoh asked Ivy if she was the one who sent the warning message. He then asked why she wrote that. She explained that she just thought the trouble at the border was a diversion. Their objective must have been to lead the main forces out of Memphis. The pharaoh then asked what she would suggest his next move be. Ivy wondered if this was a test, or if he suspected her. She recalled a historical text stating Ramesses Roman II early death prevented him from greatness. She decided she had no time to hesitate, and that this was her chance to make him trust her. The pharaoh asked if she was saying the Libyan troops were a decoy. She explained they were likely working with another side to orchestrate unrest in Memphis. She presumed he had appointed a trusted general to safeguard Memphis, but she warned that their troops would be lacking if the Libyans got reinforcements. A map showed how their returning troops could be flanked by Giza and Libya. She suggested the best course of action was to secretly request reinforcements from other cities. She concluded by saying she was sure a man as wise as him had made arrangements. She quickly corrected herself by saying, I mean, Your Majesty. The pharaoh began to tell a story about a lion cub he had in the palace. He had captured it himself with every last ounce of his strength. He raised it for 3 years, feeding it and adorning it with expensive decorations. In the end, it suddenly went mad during a ceremony, even charging at him. He said it was very disappointing after all the effort he put into raising it. The resources spent on the lion were enough to build a palace or feed a village, and despite all that, he couldn't keep it. So he killed it. He said this hadn't affected his generosity, and asked Ivy what she desired for serving Egypt. Ivy understood he wanted her to offer her loyalty to Egypt. She would be treated like that lion he loved. As long as she was faithful, he would grant her the grandest of rewards. However, he wouldn't hesitate to kill her if she went against Egypt's interests. She pledged her loyalty, stating that serving His Majesty would be the greatest reward. She thought of Nefertari and wondered how she could ever betray him. But in the blink of an eye, all of that was gone and he had forgotten her. There was too much of a difference between the dark-haired Ivy and the person she was before. The pharaoh accepted her pledge, saying, Very well. She thanked him, resolving to quietly change history as an uninvolved spectator. Still, she wondered why her heart ached so much. The army traveled to Thebes, the capital of Upper Egypt. Ivy realized this was the same city of 100 gates she saw when she first arrived. She wondered if this opulent life was what he'd been living since ascending to the throne. She hadn't expected him to advance to Thebes instead of retreating to Memphis. He was a man who acted boldly but cautiously, and trusted his men but kept options open. She couldn't imagine what or who could have caused his untimely death. A beautiful man with silver hair greeted His Majesty upon his return. Ivy thought to herself that Radak was still so beautiful. Baku pulled Ivy aside, telling her to stand in the corner. Radak reported that General Mentis had successfully quelled the rebellion engineered by Prince Shu. The ministers were shocked that it was Prince Shu. Baku proudly told Ivy that his awesome brother was Mentis. The pharaoh stated that his brother colluding with an enemy was treason. He ordered General Mentis to arrest Prince Shu, killing any who refused without mercy. He then appointed another man as the new consul of Giza, telling him to leave today. He instructed the new consul to open trade and treat traveling merchants well. Ivy was in awe, thinking he was incredible for punishing his own blood impartially. He promotes officials based on talent, even if they are low in status. Those officials do their best in gratitude, and those watching on the sidelines can feel encouraged to do their best. At the same time, this improves the pharaoh's own reputation. His officials were like pawns in a game of chess to him. With just a gesture, he could manipulate the court and hold the nation's power. He then said he had one more thing to consult them about regarding the Nile's flooding. He then asked Ivy for her opinion. Radek seemed to recognize her, making her wonder if he knew who she was. The ministers began whispering about Nefertari, so Ivy panicked, realizing she was recognized. The pharaoh asked her again for her proposal regarding the idle farmers. She suggested mobilizing them for construction work in return for wages. She realized she had told him this a few months ago. She wondered if he had completely forgot everything she said and did. The pharaoh then announced that he wanted to establish a new capital in Upper Egypt. He declared that he would name it Pi Ramesses. This was the mysterious capital city Ramesses Roman II built, which disappeared without a trace. The ministers cheered, "Long live His Majesty, long live Pi Ramesses." The pharaoh declared that Ivy possesses a rare talent for military strategy and governance. From that day on, he appointed Ivy as his royal law clerk. Ivy knew the ministers would have strongly opposed him picking a childish foreign boy, but now that he had publicly recognized her suggestion, they would not object. The ministers dared not oppose. She understood that was why he wanted her to answer his question and thanked him. Afterward, Baku told her that was dangerous. He explained Lord Radek said she looked like Nefertari, which could have been a death sentence. Ivy was shocked and asked why that was. Baku called her a country bumpkin and admitted that Nefertari dying was a lie. In fact, she disappeared 5 years ago, and His Majesty searched for her like crazy. His fervor alarmed the former pharaoh, who ordered all blonde girls to be killed. Ivy asked in fear if blonde girls were still being killed on sight. Baku asked how that concerned her, since she wasn't a girl. He scoffed at the comparison to Nefertari, so Ivy wondered if she looked that different. He added that the mandate was revoked after the coronation for diplomatic reasons, so Lord Radek's invocation of her name wasn't meant to offend her. Radek appeared, saying he would not dare. He approached them and apologized for overhearing their loud conversation. He greeted Baku as Mentis's little brother, saying his brother often talks about him. He then politely asked to speak with Ivy. He remarked on the general's energetic brother, saying Mentis wasn't much better 5 years ago. Ivy agreed that the general had matured a lot in the past few years. Radek apologized for his rudeness earlier in the Great Hall. He admitted that it is true she has some similarities with Nefertari. He said the color of her eyes was especially rare, having only seen it twice before. A nervous Ivy said he flattered her. She insisted she looked nothing like the fair-skinned Nefertari, but Radek mentioned reincarnation. He said appearances can change, but the one thing that cannot change is the soul. So no matter how much a person changes, their true identity can be seen in their eyes. He confessed she looked so much like Nefertari that he mistook her at a glance. He then sighed, saying that would be impossible. He added that, fortunately, she was not her. Radek apologized for taking her time. As he left, he wished her the best of luck in her new career. He then turned back with a smile, saying the pharaoh likes her very much. Ivy realized Radek also thought she was similar to Nefertari. She wondered if Baifidu recognized her too, but it didn't seem like he remembered at all. She chided herself, thinking it was better if he didn't remember her. Baku ran up to her, shouting that this was bad. He explained that he had caught someone sneaking around the palace. He showed her what he found, and she asked what happened. She admitted she couldn't read the script, so Baku angrily said it was Hittite. She calmly asked what it said, which made Baku even more agitated. The message on the tablet read, "The rebellion has failed, begin Plan B." The scene shifted to the Thebes palace courtyard. The pharaoh was playing chess alone by a lotus pond. 2 servants noticed he was sitting by the lotus pond again. They recalled it had been 5 years, not since Lady Nefertari went missing. As the head servant, Madame Nat had watched His Majesty grow up. As a child, he had grown familiar with deception and palace intrigue. He couldn't see the truth, as everything was hidden in schemes for fame. He liked to sit by himself by the lotus pond, thinking of future moves. Then that girl appeared, and just as quickly disappeared. After that, His Majesty never let himself be alone again, filling his days with work and nights with women. Madame Nat wondered if his return to the pond meant he had moved on emotionally. The pharaoh sighed, recalling how he had searched every inch of Thebes for her. He recalled hearing about a foreign girl who resembled her. He would drop everything and rush to see for himself. He took out his anger on others and neglected Mot Hornefrir. The younger man had rebelled against an arranged marriage. He even prohibited cobra bracelets with ruby eyes. He searched madly for her, which led to a terrible decree. He was used to getting what he wanted, but she was unreachable. No matter how he tried, he could never reach her. He was finally enjoying a lonely night after 5 years. He set his cup down with a clank. He found himself thinking about her again. The red-haired boy noted his friend's sneezing might be seen as demonic possession. He then asked about the woman the red-haired boy was stalking. The red-haired boy defended his actions, calling them intuition. He said he would have returned a regular tablet. He asked his friend if he understood the situation. He explained that Egyptians use papyrus, while Hittites use clay tablets. This suggested that a plan was in motion. The plan was to lure someone named Pharaoh away from Memphis. This was a deal between Shu and Libya, so a Hittite tablet was strange. He wondered why a maid would lose such an important tablet. The consequence for betraying those in power was harsh punishment. He questioned why the message transmission was so negligent. He then noticed a strange symbol on the tablet. He asked the red-haired boy, Buka, about the symbol. His friend grew impatient and demanded to know. He finally remembered that it seemed to be a lotus. The lotus is the favorite flower of Egyptians. The combination of Hittite writing and an Egyptian symbol was strange. Buka realized the detailed seal must be custom-made for someone of high status. The other boy wondered why they would use a conspicuous mark. He became more and more confused by the mystery. He asked Buka if anyone had seen him take the tablet. Buka got even more upset at his friend's persistence. Buka confidently stated he wasn't seen. His friend thought that at least he and Buka were safe for now. Someone knocked on the door, so the purple-haired boy asked who was there. The messenger brought an invitation to a banquet from His Majesty. The purple-haired boy saw the banquet as a chance to find clues. He told the messenger that they would attend. He was confused as maids suddenly took him away. The maids explained they were to bathe and dress him for the banquet. He nervously asked what was inside the jars. A maid told him the jars contained various oils. He sarcastically asked if the oils were for cooking. An older maid offered to take his wig. He was surprised she could tell he was wearing a wig. She explained that wearing wigs was common in Thebes. She said the oils could be applied to his scalp to help hair regrow. He realized everyone might have known about his wig. He told the maids he didn't need their help and they could leave. One maid asked if he needed assistance with his bath. He blushed and shouted that he could bathe himself. The maid respectfully left him alone. She enjoyed the first comfortable bath since she arrived. The journey from Mule to Thebes had been miserable. She recalled that she hadn't planned to disguise herself as a boy. Buka had simply assumed she was a boy from the start. She thought it would be too weird to reveal she was a girl now. As a girl, she couldn't have become a law clerk. She saw that her arms were turning pale. She decided to only use her tanning spray on her face from now on. The danger Pharaoh faced was far worse than she had thought. She realized she might have died if Pharaoh hadn't saved her. She felt she must now save him in return. She needed to correct the history she had changed. Buka burst in, telling her the banquet was starting. He screamed in shock and apologized before fleeing. He was shocked to realize that she was a girl. He wondered why her face and body were different colors. He also questioned how her hair changed color and length so fast. He was incredibly flustered by the discovery. He wondered how he could possibly face Ivy later. She was furious that the idiot Buka now knew her secret. She reasoned that it might be fine because Buka is dense. He suddenly declared that he would be responsible for her. He repeated that he would be responsible for her. She stammered, asking what he was talking about. He tried to explain, so she shut him up. She forbade him from telling anyone or being responsible. She frantically told him to pretend he saw nothing. He promised that he, Buka, would protect her no matter what. She yelled that it wasn't a joke and told him to go away. Men were discussing the well-timed victory in Mule. She found the banquet celebrating the pharaoh's enthronement to be lively. Buka suddenly stopped, so Ivy asked him what was wrong. She felt like she was being watched. The arrival of Princess Mot Hornefrir was announced. She remembered being told she was now a concubine. They noted it had been a long time since they saw the princess. They said she had been shunned since the marriage was political. One woman thought the princess looked much more modest now. They pitied her for losing the pharaoh's favor. Another woman corrected that she never had his favor. Ivy asked Buka who Amun-Ra was. He explained she was His Majesty's sister, a well-known priestess. Ministers wanted the pharaoh to marry her because she could speak to the gods. She was shocked to learn Pharaoh might marry his sister. Ivy thought about Amun-Ra being married to the pharaoh. Her heart ached at the thought of them being together. She wondered if she was feeling jealousy. An announcer shouted that His Majesty had arrived. He declared that it was a night of celebration without formalities. He said they would forego protocol for the night. He told everyone to celebrate and drank from his cup. The crowd cheered, "Long live His Majesty." He announced he had a gift for his ministers. The gift was Amun-Ra's most precious, blessed item. It was an auspicious treasure that could make wishes come true. The ministers eagerly talked about getting the blessed item. They saw it as a sign of the pharaoh's confidence. She realized he wanted to use religion to control his people. She excitedly told Buka she wanted it. The pharaoh announced he would give the gift to the most quick-witted person in the hall. He said he would ask a question, and the best answer would win. Winner would receive the golden lion. He asked May, the top architect, to devise a difficult question. May said the key was the solution, not the problem's difficulty. He asked for the quickest way to measure the Singkub temple's height. He announced that the Architectural Academy would not participate. One man suggested counting the stones in the tallest pillar. Another suggested creating a giant ruler, which May also dismissed. A military man's direct answer was found amusing. Many other ideas were proposed, but all were rejected. He asked why none of them could answer May's question. Ivy then volunteered to try and answer the question. Some men scoffed that a non-Egyptian couldn't know. She said one only needed a straight stick of a certain measurement. May asked if she meant a royal cubit. She didn't know what a royal cubit was but went along with it. She stammered and agreed to using a royal cubit. At noon, the stick should be stood vertically in the ground. Then, one must measure the length of its shadow and the temple's shadow. The temple's height is the ratio of the shadows multiplied by the stick's height. May realized this was knowledge only known to the academy. He asked if she had worked in architecture in her country. She nervously said no, she just used math. He was impressed by her math skills and invited her to the academy. The pharaoh stated that Ivy was a rare talent he would keep by his side. He told May to find other youths for the academy. He then announced that Ivy had won the contest. The pharaoh said to give her the precious lion. The crowd was shocked that he would personally hand it to her. She wondered why Pharaoh was coming to her. Buka leaned in and told her good job. He commented that the lion statue was pretty nice. She recognized the lotus crest from the clay tablet. She realized the plotter was the owner of the lion. Amun-Ra appeared and asked if she liked her lion cub. Amun-Ra confirmed Ivy's name. She complimented Ivy and mentioned how much her brother valued her. Amun-Ra confirmed it was made for her and had her crest on it. She showed them the small lotus flower on the statue. Ivy was shocked that the lotus was Amun-Ra's crest. Amun-Ra then clarified that it wasn't only her crest. She explained that every wife, including Mot-Hornefrir, uses it. The pharaoh asked Amun-Ra what she was discussing with his minister. Ivy tried to listen to what they were saying. She wondered why she couldn't hear anything. A name had been forbidden for the past 5 years. Amun-Ra asked her brother who he was calling Nefertari. Ivy thanked His Majesty for his concern and said she was fine. He looked at her and asked if she felt embarrassed. He suddenly lifted her into his arms, shocking everyone. The crowd wondered why he called a boy Nefertari. He told her not to move or he would drop her. He announced he had been searching for a foreign princess. He declared that she had finally returned to Egypt. A foreign maiden with golden hair and aqua-blue eyes was revealed. He declared that she is Nefertari. He decreed that Nefertari may resume work within the palace. He also awarded everyone 10 gold pieces, so they cheered. She again felt that cold feeling of someone staring at her. That person must be one of the officials. Later, they were in a private room. The pharaoh told her it had been 5 years. He told her he had spent 5 years looking for her. He could lead soldiers and govern a country. He excelled at building magnificent structures. But he confessed that he could not understand her. He said he would no longer coerce her if he was too rough. If he was too reckless, he would learn to be gentle. He promised not to marry concubines if she disliked it. He would destroy all serpent bracelets if she wished. He leaned in and softly asked if she would stay. She couldn't believe those words came from Pharaoh's mouth. She was stunned that he was lowering his head to her. She thought he had changed so much while she was gone. He was a young pharaoh who controlled a kingdom. Aside from the sun, there was no one he needed to bow to. She asked him when he discovered it was her. He knew when he first met Ivy at Moulay village. She exclaimed that it was impossible. He said she had never spent 5 years thinking of one person. He asked if she thought a wig could fool him. Trying to look like someone else would not fool him. She was shocked that he knew so quickly. She asked if letting her be his law clerk was a test. He confessed he just didn't dare admit it was her. He said she could stay in this room, but she refused. He pointed out that women couldn't be law clerks. She asked if she would have the room to herself. She wanted Buka to move there to stay with her. He trusted Buka and arranged a guard position for him. She asked for one more thing, promising not to harm him. She wanted to listen in on his national and military policy meetings. He rested his head on his hand, saying she still didn't understand him. 5 years ago, he couldn't marry her as he wished, but he had promised to fulfill her every wish one day. He was now Egypt's pharaoh. He said he could give her whatever she wanted. He would grant her wish even if it was unreasonable. He would be seen as a foolish monarch for her. He promised he would do anything to satisfy her. He then pulled her close and told her to stay there. He begged Nefertari to stay with him. She decided to stay for now to change his fate, but she knew one day she must defy this order and worried about it. The next day, things were happening at the palace. She ran after Buka, calling his name. She urged him to tell someone as it concerned the pharaoh's life. Buka awkwardly addressed her as Nefertari, Your Highness. She guessed he thought she was ungrateful. They were good buddies, but now she was royalty. And she had been using him all along. She asked if she was right, but he tried to say no. He struggled to explain that wasn't what he thought. He was interrupted when he saw someone named Radak. He saw a cloaked figure and told her to hide. She wondered if the figure saw them. She confirmed it was Radak and wondered why he was there. She knew he was difficult to deal with and trusted by Pharaoh. She profusely apologized to Buka for misjudging him. She asked him again why Radak was there. Radak was one of the most powerful priests in Egypt. She wondered why he was alone and who he was looking for. The only concubine in these quarters was Nefertari. She told Buka the tablet could be from anyone with the lotus seal. It could be Amun-Ra, Nefertari, or someone else. She suddenly recalled that Nefertari is a Hittite princess. If it was her, Radak's visit meant something terrible. The pharaoh appeared with his entourage and asked what she was doing.